We're all pretty familiar with the story of Jonah. God tells the prophet Jonah to go to Nineveh and proclaim God's judgment on the city. And instead of listening to God, Jonah decides that he's going to run away. And so he runs away and he gets on a ship, and all of a sudden this huge storm comes. And so the people from that ship take Jonah and they throw him overboard in order that the storm might go away. And God actually has a fish prepared, and he saves Jonah's life in that sea. And Jonah finds himself in the belly for 3 days. And Jonah cries out to God. And what God does is he orders the fish to spit him out. And so Jonah finds himself with another chance. And Jonah decides he's going to go to Nineveh and do what God told him to do. And when he goes to Nineveh, Jonah delivers the message that God did. And what happens is the Ninevites, they turn to God. They repent. And what we see is God being who God is. It says in verse 10 of chapter 3 that then God saw their works, that they turned from their evil way, and God relented from the disaster that he had said he would bring upon them. And he did not do it. God didn't do the judgment that he said he was going to do on Nineveh. He had mercy on them. And here we see why Jonah ran. In the very next verse, it says in chapter 4, verse 1, "But it displeased Jonah exceedingly, and he became angry. So he prayed to the Lord and said, 'O Lord, was not this what I said when I was still in my country? Therefore I fled previously to Tarshish, for I know that you are a gracious and merciful God, slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness, one who relents from doing harm.'" What is Jonah saying? What we see, the reason why Jonah ran away, because he didn't really want God to be God. Jonah says, "I knew that you were going to have mercy on them. I knew that you are a gracious and merciful God, slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness." And he says, "I knew that you were going to turn, you were going to relent from doing harm." That's why Jonah ran away, because he knew God was going to be God. And this has so much application in our life. This is something that we can study from the book of Jonah and learn from him and God's heart for people. Because Jonah didn't really want God to be God. He wanted the city punished. He didn't want them saved. And I wonder so many times when we look at our lives and what really captures our life, what we're consumed with, we carry the name of Christ and we gather as his church. But I wonder if sometimes we might not run away and get on a ship. God's not calling most of us to go speak to a whole city and say something. But what we might do is we might run to our busy schedules and our wish lists and all of our family and friends, just being consumed with that we don't do what God called us to do, to be his hands and his feet in the world, to reach out to those who are lost and hurting in the world, just to defend the poor, to stand up for justice. And I really began to think about that and begin to pray, God, you are God, and you're going to be who you are. You're merciful, you're gracious, you're slow to anger. And so I wonder if we begin turning from being consumed with our own lives and our own ways, and we begin reaching out, we begin sharing the gospel again, we begin drawing near to God. I wonder if we're going to see a city saved for him. That we're going to begin to see people saved. We're going to begin to see the supernatural and miracles, people being healed, people discovering hope, people discovering love, and all of that. And so I just want to encourage us, what are some ways that we're running from what God is calling us to? And how can we learn the heart of God and begin to turn to what he thinks is important? And so this really becomes our prayer. God, I want what matters to you to matter to me. And so I want to encourage you and bless you. I hope you're doing well, and I thank you for joining us today.